My name is Rose Wong. I am 22 years old and I am an entrepreneur. So I own two jewelry stores in Waikiki and I graduated from Manoa this past May. So May 2020. And I got invited to church by Kyle and by Jordan actually. And so I've known Jordan for 3 years now. And we met in the Entrepreneurs Club at Manoa. I was the president, he was a member. And I remember at all of our events, Jordan was just like this really kind person, and you could kind of just tell that there was something good about him. And Kyle, just like Jordan, he was just a good person too, all around, very pure, very kind, very unconventional, very different from normal people in the world. And just very good. And I always wondered who, what, why he was like that. And then when we crossed paths again, he started to share about his journey with me. He started to talk about his Ohana group. He started to talk about just this new life that he was living. And then I actually did my first study with Jordan and Kyle, and I remember it very clearly. I think it was on, we did a few, but it was on Pride. And I remember I was like, wow, I didn't know all these things before, and like I didn't think about it like this before. And so that's how I got introduced to the church. And so I'm very grateful that Kyle and Jordan were able to walk me through the process. And then I met Makana, everyone else from the Ohana group, and then more people from the church. So what made me start to want to do personal Bible studies was kind of general. And then as I learned more and more, I had so many questions and so many things that I found out I had to work on. I grew up in a family of 12, and when my mom was very Christian, but then my parents got divorced, and then my stepmom would make us go to church, but I didn't really understand it because I saw people who would just go to church on Sundays, but then not do anything else. And so I was always kind of closed off to it. And so I had to grow up really quickly. I lived with another family. I got my first job when I was 14. I started my business when I was 16. I lived on my own when I was 18, put myself through college, and a lot of that I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of that hardened me. And when COVID happened, my store got shut down, my first store got shut down. And I remember in April, I was so determined to make sure that COVID didn't affect our business. And so I exhausted myself day and night to hit our numbers, to make sure that we weren't affected. The last night of April, on the brink, we hit our sales goal, and I thought I'd be happy. And then I remember I went home that night and I just cried, and I didn't really understand why I was crying. But even though I did all of that, something just felt empty. And I got a little glimpse of what it would feel like if I kept going on like that. And thankfully I learned it earlier than later. And so, I think that's why I first started. I first realized that there was something missing, there was something that I didn't really have a purpose. I was just working for money. I was living for money. I was living for my business. And I could see how that was affecting some of my decisions, some of the people that I led into my life. I could see how that was affecting just, where my life was going, and some of the actions that I did at the expense of other people for my business. And I just didn't want to keep going in that direction. Jesus has changed my life in a lot of ways. And well, for one, he definitely softened my heart, and he gives a lot of purpose to the things that I do. Since I didn't grow up close to my parents, then he's the one that I can go to for advice. He's the one that I can go to for comfort. What made me choose to follow Jesus? It was a lot of the things that I was learning in my Bible studies. It was a lot of the ways of how everyone was just encouraging, and a lot of the people that God did place in my life. And another part of it is my mom. So I told you she was diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia, and I remember whenever I would go through a hard time or something, I would always think like, man, I wish I could talk to my mom. And I always wonder, what would my mom say? And because she was very Christian, I think that, my mom would tell me something along the lines of the scripture, along the lines of what Jesus and the Bible would say. And so it was nice to kind of feel connected to her in that way. I got baptized on December 13th. It's actually my mom's birthday. It was very last minute too. I remember we were talking about it for a while, and they told me that the next step is baptism. And I didn't yet understand it until like 2 days before I decided to get baptized. I think it was realizing that I wanted to really dig deep and give myself to Jesus, and then also live for a greater purpose, and be able to help others just in the same way that the church has helped me, that all of the other disciples from the church has helped me. Spiritual dreams that I have for myself. So I definitely want to grow in my spiritual relationship with God, with Jesus. And I'm slowly learning how to make Him the forefront of my relationships, of my work life, of my family, of my friendships. And one thing is I want to, I hope that just as Jesus has healed a lot of other people, He can heal my mom one day. And yeah, even when I talked to her, she's living on the streets right now for the past 13 years. And because of her mental illness, the only thing that she can return to is her Bible, is her scriptures. She memorizes her scriptures. Whenever she writes about scriptures, about God. And so I know that it gives me comfort knowing that He's there with her. And so I hope that with enough prayer, that maybe one day He can heal her too. And that's one of my personal spiritual dreams. Just as the sisters and the brothers and everyone who brought me to the church has helped me so much and encouraged me so much, that I can just contribute in the same way that people have contributed to me, and I hope that I can share that with a lot of people. And it truly is just something that you have to experience for yourself at God's divine time.